Welcome back. Here we are at part 3. Picking up where we left off with the top 6 now. Alright. Number 6, Epicloud. Yeah, so, Epicloud, I mean... it's a great album. I mean, what's not to love about it? It resonates this sort of positive energy. This just sort of, it's kind of overflowing from it. I mean, every song on it is just kind of different, but also somewhat similar. Kind of like the only two other ones I can think of that are like this are Ocean Machine and Accelerated Evolution, where the songs are very different, yet they're like woven together. Well, and Sky Blue, but Epicloud, I mean, there's something magical about it, It's just like, it's like heavy metal Disney World. There we go. That's what it's like. It's like heavy metal Disney World. There we go. I just made that up and it's perfect. We have the infamous retelling of the story of Kingdom from Physicist, which the Physicist version, I mean, by itself, that was the only one that existed. It's whatever. It's passable. But, I mean, especially given the product of its time and all that. But the Epicloud version, well, it's a complete reimagining, and it really, really brings it to life. I feel that this song really came to its full potential with this one, and it's a solid 10 out of 10 for me. I mean, I can't really think of anything that could have been improved by it. There's some songs like that, like I said, about Detox from Strapping Young Lad, and a few others where it's just like, it is what it is, and just, But Epicloud is a very, I mean, as far as technicality goes, as far as complexity goes, sure, it's not the most complex thing he's ever done. It's not the most technically proficient thing. It's not the most, whatever. But it's just, at the end of the day, this is a list of my personal things, and I really enjoy Epicloud as an album. I don't know what else to say about it, except I could give my top 3 songs. Kingdom, oh boy, let's see. It was I think I should have wrote those down too. Oh well. Oh, that's a tough one. The 2 Epicloud songs. Maybe like Hold On or Cry Forever, Love Tonight, I don't know. Effervescent, True North. I mean, I just threw out some names. There you go. Alright, we're into the top 5 now. Now, probably ever since Dark Matters, number 12, is when things like really took that big step, like from medium to hard on Guitar Hero, But these top 5, excuse me, I just did some really spicy peppers. I'm still kind of belching, processing them. Anyway, so these top 5 though, they're in a whole nother league. Like, even by Devin Townsend standards, which are already absurdly high, these are just masterpieces. So I think you can pretty much guess which ones they are. Well, I mean, you can, because there's 23 albums and I said 18 of them, so you know which 5 are left. But, you can probably guess just based on which ones I didn't say yet what they're going to be if you know anything about the discography. It's just a matter of what order. And one of them is really going to surprise you. And you'll know when we get to it. Number 5 is Alien. Obviously, I had to put this one up near the top because it's just so intense. It's unbelievable. It is so intense. Try listening to Alien with good headphones, like laying down in your bed with your eyes closed in a dark room. It's it's intense. I'm telling you, you'll think like you'll start to feel things. Um, it's a very intense album, and the Devin Townsend podcast episode on Alien just dropped like this week, so I got to listen to that and get some more insight on it and everything. But it kind of just reaffirmed, what I already thought, and what I was already able to piece together. But this album, I mean, no one can describe it better than Devin himself. But it's so you go listen to the podcast. It's episode 7. If you want to like know the story behind it and everything, but I mean, even just from the first time I heard it, when I didn't know anything about it, it was just like, it's intense is the word that keeps coming to my mind. But not only is it intense, but it's also like kind of infinity-ish, where there's like a lot of symbolism and a lot of like story going on too. And the story is like a lot of personal stuff with Devin too, but then it's also this like tapping into this other world. And it's funny that I compared it to Infinity, because this was well before. I've always compared it to Infinity, and then on the podcast episode describing it, he compared it to Infinity himself, and he was like, "Yeah, I had to go to the same place that I went to get Infinity, but it was just like, the expectations were different, the motives were different, so Alien is yeah, I mean, it's intense. That's the only word I can really, it's intense, and it has a story to it, and it's very, like, it's very technically sound, because it's Strapping Young Lad, and those guys know what they're doing. They know how to make some very powerful and communicative metal music. So I mean, it's like City basically, and then we had a little weird thing with the Strapping Young Lad self-titled album, which is still good, like I said, still Strapping Young Lad and everything. But then with Alien, they really made a comeback, and it's unlike anything that they've ever done. It's unlike anything else. So, all right, moving. Oh, top 3 songs. Well, I gotta put Love on there, of course. What else? Possessions, and Skeksis. So, all right. Number 4. Drum roll. I mean, there's very few left. Number 4 is going to be Deconstruction. Ooh, boy, you probably thought this was going to be number 1, didn't you? Or at least like number 2. You might be wondering, man, what can these top 3 be? Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. To put it above Alien is really saying something, and above Epicloud and City and all these just phenomenal, like basically 10 out of 10 albums. Deconstruction. Oh boy, there's a lot to deconstruct here. Ha ha ha. It's part of the original Devin Townsend project. That trilogy. What's it called when there's 4? I don't know, but it's part of the first 4 albums from the Devin Townsend project, which were all worked on simultaneously between 2008 and 2011. And Key was released in 2009, because I was ready first, and then Addicted was released in 2010, because I was ready next, and then Deconstruction and Ghost were actually released on the same day, but they're separate albums, completely separate. And Deconstruction is classified as the 3rd album, and Ghost is classified as the 4th. Deconstruction, so, I mean, Ghost is kind of a standalone thing, and then, and then from then on it went on to Epicloud and Casualties of Cool and Z Squared and all that. But Key, Addicted, and Deconstruction kind of work as a trilogy. I mean, if you listen to them back to back, because the way Key ends at the end of Demon League, him like, putting the guitar away and closing the door and all that, and it's like, suppose tomorrow it comes, whatever. And suppose tomorrow it comes, I'm alone, like, the mania, like, Key is like a moment of clarity, and then Addicted comes on, and you go into the song Addicted, and it's like this gradual crescendo and everything, and then the whole album's just like, yeah, there's exclamation points, there's a whole bunch of, like, it's very, like, sugary, sweet. It's very manic. It's mania, you know. And then it ends on kind of like, you know, it kind of fades out at the end of what is it, Awake, I guess. And then while the voice is now awake and deconstruct, and then Deconstruction comes on if you have it on autoplay, you know, and Praise the Lord is the first song, and that kind of picks up where that left off, musically at least. And then, and you're off from there, and then by the end of Praise the Lord, things are already getting pretty intense, so you know, like, you get a little free sample of what you're into, and, you know, Praise the Lord is a pretty intense song, so, you know, you probably think, like, wow, this is some pretty intense stuff, but you have no idea. Because then you get to Stand, and then you get to Jular, which is like next level. And then after that, I mean, I think it's Planet of the Apes or Samaria or one of the, I don't know. But by the time you get, you know, like the second half of the album is when things really, really pick up. Yeah, I mean, you get to the Mighty Masturbator, and then Pandemic, and then, you know, which oddly cycled around in a weird way, and then the song Deconstruction and Poltergeist, and then Hokrill and all that, so, I mean, it is, I mean, it's Deconstruction, I don't know, it's extremely complex in every sense of the word, in every aspect. It's complex musically, it's complex technically, it's complex lyrically, it's complex. Like, there's a whole bunch of collaborations on it. There's with the guy from Dillinger Escape Plan, and then from like 2 other ones and stuff, and like it's all over the place. And the whole By a Thread concert series in 2011, where they play the Mighty Masturbator, and they have like the Zeltoid election bit come in like halfway through the song, and it's like, oh, let's go to space, you know, whatever, and it like. But the whole thing is, like, it's not chaos, though. Much like Alien is, like, intense, but it's not it's orderly. It's not chaotic. Deconstruction is like that, but it's, you know, I mean, it's sober Devin. It's the Devin Townsend project and all that, so it's more, like, it's done in a different way, in more of a modern kind of way. But, I mean, I would say none of his work has really gotten to that level since then. Deconstruction was like the last foray. I mean, there are some parts in Empath, you know, even like it's some parts in Singularity and in a few other songs. I think was it Genesis or was it whatever? But definitely Singularity, you know, where like it gets heavy metal. You know, it sounds like it could pass for strapping or something, but it just hasn't quite been the same since Deconstruction. Deconstruction was like that. I was like, that's the grand finale, you know, as far as the intense stuff goes. But like I said, it's not one of those things that are just it's loud for the sake of being loud, or it's intense for the sake of being intense. Because I really don't care for that stuff. I think it's just, you know, trying way too hard and just, you know, look at me, you know, it's very, like, attention craving, and it's, you know, it's just not my kind of thing. But this is, like, I mean, you know, just listen to the album. I mean, just listen to it. I can't wait for the podcast episode on this one. But, yeah, so my 3 favorite songs, let's see, in order, Jular, The Mighty Masturbator, and Deconstruction. Those would be my top 3. Whatever you do, if you're new to Devin Townsend, please don't start with this album. And don't start with Alien either. In fact, what are the best albums to start with? That's a good question. Well, after we get at the end of the list, I'll talk about that maybe. All right, time for the top 3. Number 3, Zeltoid the Omniscient from 2007. Ah, crap, I didn't get the years. Epic Cloud is from 2012. Alien is from 2005. Deconstruction is from 2011. So Zeltoid the Omniscient, the original from 2007. This album shocked audiences everywhere. It came out of nowhere. So to give you a little backstory, for those of you that don't know, so Devin had just left Strapping Young Lad. He announced that after the New Black tour and everything. And it also broke up the Devin Townsend band, which is a very short-lived thing. They only made 2 albums together, Accelerated Evolution and then Synkestra. And then, so he just kind of took a hiatus. He just became a father and everything. There was a lot of family stuff going on. He was trying to get sober and everything. So it was, just a lot going on. He's like, I just need some time to myself, whatever. But obviously, being the, compulsive music genius that he is, he just couldn't help himself from creating a masterpiece in that time. He just couldn't take the time out. He just couldn't stay away from music. It's like he's magnetically drawn to, to making just, some of the best music this planet has ever seen. And there's just, nothing else that he can do. So it was during this time that he made Zeltoid the Omniscient. And, so I'm not sure if this was right before he got sober or right after. It's kind of hard to tell. Maybe it was halfway through the album. I don't know. But it was definitely. I think I'm pretty sure he still had his hair for this one. He didn't get rid of the skull lid until when the Devin Townsend project started, I think. But because Zeltoid's modeled after. I mean, I guess it doesn't mean anything. But whatever. Anyway, this is beside the point. So this album is surprisingly good. The first time I heard it, I mean, this one's one of those ones that just grew on me. Every time I heard it, I noticed more and more subtle things, and it just made it that much more impressive to me. This album, you want to talk about story? Deconstruction is the only album that comes close to this story. I mean, Deconstruction is very complex, yes, so they're probably about tied. But the Zeltoid story, don't discount it. It's not just a silly album. I mean, the thing is, it's so great because there's so many layers you can interpret it. You can interpret it at face value, and it's awesome. You can dig a little bit into it, and it's awesome. You can dig a medium amount into it, which by that point you'll think it's been a lot, which is me after my 3rd time listening to it. And then you can go actually deep, and then you reach a whole new revelation. But I mean, just every song in this album, it just the way that everything's done, I'm speechless here. I don't even have words to describe Zeltoid the Omniscient. I mean, there's nothing else like it. And even in his discography, there's just nothing else like it at all. There's nothing else. None of the strapping stuff is like that. None of the Devin Townsend project. None of his, other solo work or anything. Nothing before it. Nothing after it. I mean, and like I said, the Dark Matters album, Z Squared, that one, I mean, that's impressive too and everything as a sequel, but it didn't quite come from the same place as the original one. Because by that point, you'd already done the Devin Townsend project and everything. It's a product of its time. And I think, that's the only time, 2007 is the only time that he could make Zeltoid the Omniscient. And, I mean, I'm at a loss for words here. I really don't even know where to begin unpacking all of this. Zeltoid, it's a story about Zeltoid, which he made up, by the way, like a puppet. And so Zeltoid is just this, this silly, lovable villain kind of character, is like a Dr. Doofenshmirtz, kind of character, who lives on, I forget the name of the planet, whatever, but, and so he's on a quest for the ultimate cup of coffee, and he goes from planet to planet, asking them to make the cup of coffee, and then if he doesn't like it, he destroys the planet. And so eventually he comes to Earth, and he's like, hey, I'm Zeltoid, give me your finest cup of coffee. And so he doesn't like it. And so he's like, all right, bring out the Planet Smasher. That's what it's called. And so he's like, oh, all right, let's get the Planet Smasher. But Captain Spectacular, who's representing Earth, obviously doesn't want that. And so he's like, wait, no, there's all these phases it goes through, then they're working together, and he's like, no, we can help you, and then one of them betrays the other one, and then it's like, all right, now we're going to destroy the planet, and then, it's like, no, we'll make you another cup of coffee, and he's like, no, it's still not good enough, whatever, so that's the storyline at face value, And then each one of the songs, there's narration, by the way, like at the beginning and the end. We now join Captain Spectacular as he gazes introspectively at, and it's, it's Devin doing the narration and everything. But, it's like, and we go to the songs. So, but I'd say by the time it got to Solar Winds is where it really got me, where I was like, okay, I'm invested in this when we got to Solar Winds, because that's where I was like, maybe there's a little more going on here than meets the eye. Because knowing him, I mean, you can't just make, like, you can't just make Punky Brewster again. He's gonna add depth to it. So, and Solar Winds was the song that made me realize that. And then we go into Hyperdrive, and that's like, wow, and then, like, it's the omnidimensional creator or whatever, and, like, I mean, even from Zeltoid the Attacks, it's a silly song, but it's still, like, I just love it, because, I mean, there's so much to love about the album. It's funny, it's entertaining, it's engaging, and it's also really chilling. Like, when you get to, I mean, N9 is like, and then Color Your World, which is great for so many reasons, and if you follow Devin's work, from Alien and Physicist and I think Terria, there's a whole bunch of albums that are referenced in Color Your World, especially musically, from Infodump, when you have the Morse code for Ohm, which I think was also from Infinity, but the Morse code for Ohm is played as a note, like, while the omnidimensional creator or the planet smasher, whichever one it is that he goes to visit in Nebula 9, says, "You are a puppet, you are a puppet, I am a puppet, we're all puppets," like, when Zeltoid finally realizes his life's purpose and everything, it's like, I'm Zeltoid, or whatever. He's like, yeah, silence, you are a puppet, Zeltoid, you are a puppet, and so while he's saying that, there's the Morse code for Ohm plays, and it's just, like, it's a little thing like that, but there's just so much that, like, you can just go over so many people's heads, and, so Color Your World is just a masterpiece by itself. I mean, that, from Solar Winds, like I said, was where I first suspected something was up, but when Color Your World, when that happened, I was like, okay, now I know something's up. And then it goes right into the Greys, which is great for so many reasons, because it's like the Greys, the aliens, or the Greys like gray hairs, the Greys like the gray days, the gray, like, there's just so many, it's great, because there's so many different stories that are being told equally detailed, equally descriptively, all at the same time, using the same lyrics and the same music and the same characters and the same story. There are so many different plot lines that, like, are happening in the same time. It's just mind-blowing. It's the story of Devin, it's the story of Zeltoid, it's the story of humanity, it's the story of everything, all in this one series of things. So how can it be any better? Zeltoid the Omniscient. And I know what you're saying, how could this not be number one? Well, it's just because these top two, you can call them guilty pleasures, you can call them whatever you want, but they're just it's just like what really does it for me. But if we're talking about, if we're talking about objectively, like if we're talking about which one's the best masterpiece he's done, Zeltoid. I would say Zeltoid. And Deconstruction is like just a hair away. Zeltoid, Deconstruction, and Alien. Those are the big three as far as, like, objectively impressive. Like, they're the, yeah. So, top songs from Zeltoid. Solar Winds, Hyperdrive, Color Your World, The Greys, N9. Yeah, I gotta go all 5 of those. I love Zeltoid the Attacks, too, but, whatever. I just love them all. Alright, so, number 2, Empath. I know, we didn't say it yet. But, yeah, so, Empath, 2019. What can I say? It's just expertly crafted. The emotions that this makes me feel, like, the I mean, if there was one album from Devin Townsend that encapsulates everything that he's about and everything that he does and just all aspects of everything all in one album, I would say it would be Empath. Because, I mean, it's got everything, really. I mean, it checks every mark. And each song, like, none of them feel out of place in the album. They all, like, fit right in. But the question is, fit into what? What is Empath? What is this? You know? It's like, it's so beautiful, and it just, like, tickles my soul just right, you know? Like, everything I do, it, like, I don't know, I don't know, at this point, we're beyond words, you know? Once we get up this high on who's quite possibly my favorite musician of all time, I mean, where do you go from here? How do you top that? That's the thing, is like, people said that after City, you know? People said that after Alien. People said that after Zeltoid. People said that after Deconstruction. And he keeps coming back, and he keeps doing it again. But after Empath, where do you go from there? You know what I mean? But he describes it as a transition between the Devin Townsend project and where he's going next, which I'm on pins and needles waiting for that. Because if Empath is just setting up for an even grander thing, I mean, I didn't think it could get grander than Empath, but just listen to Empath. I don't know. There's not words. So my favorite songs: Genesis, Spirits Will Collide, and Evermore, Why, Borderlands, Singularity. Can I just include them all? At least those. Alright, so we don't have any honorable mentions because these are all the albums we're already covering. But in lieu of honorable mentions, I would say I'll give the best albums to start off with if you're new to Devin Townsend. Ocean Machine is always a safe bet because of, you know, how early it is and everything, and how it sort of like is a good foot dipping experience to dip your foot in the ocean, you know. Ocean Machine, let's see, I have the list here. It's a good one to start with. You could start with City, I guess. You could start with Epic Cloud. You could start with Accelerated Evolution. I suppose you could start with Key. I don't know why you'd want to, but you could, I guess. Or you could start with our number one pick. And I guess, those are probably the biggest points of entry. Speaking of number one pick, it's time for it. Are you ready for it? You ready for it? Why don't you go ahead and settle the bet with your friends about which one it's going to be? Because you're probably saying, like, okay, you already said all the albums. Let's see. Have these really everything? Punky Brewster, Synkestra, Ghost, Strapping Young Lad, Addicted, Infinity, The New Black, Key, Ocean Machine, Physicist, Transcendence, Z Squared, Accelerated Evolution, Terria, Casualties of Cool, City, Epic Cloud, Alien, Deconstruction, Zeltoid the Omniscient, Empath. What else is there? That's all the albums, right? Oh, are you sure about that? Well, I mean, you know, it's all the full-length ones, all his solo albums. Like, really? No, there's one more, and I even spoiled it at the beginning when I said that there's Deconstruction and Ghost were released on the same day, much like two other albums. So this was, I guess you could say, the B-side, or whatever the kids call it, to Z Squared Dark Matters. So that gives it away right away. But it's Sky Blue. Now this is the one a lot of you probably forgot about, but I haven't, because it's my favorite album. And, I mean, you know, like, this one, you know, it's not the most, you know, it's not the most, complex, it's not the most, you know, what have you, it's not really the most anything, it's It's just kind of like, oh yeah, there's that one too. But for most people, but for me, it's a collection of songs. That's basically what it is. It's a collection of songs, but every single one of those songs are just jaw-dropping for me. And I mean, like if ever I'm having a day that's anything less than perfect, if I put on the Sky Blue album, that all changes. By the end, but if I listen to that album from start to finish in one sitting and give it my full attention, I mean, you want to talk about Epicloud being heavy metal Disney World. This is heavy metal Disney planet, you know, galaxy, whatever. I didn't even know music could do this. Magical is the only word that comes to my mind. It's just concentrated positive energy. It's just 100% positive. And there's not a single weak song. I mean, I guess my least favorite is Rejoice, but even that one's still really good. But, my three favorites, Fallout, Universal Flame, and Before We Die. Those are probably, the three best ones. But there's just, Silent Militia, Sky Blue, Warrior, A New Rain, Midnight Sun, Rain City, it's just, everyone is, I mean, it's really incredible. But yeah, so Sky Blue is my favorite. This is going to cut out in like 5 seconds, I think. But anyway, thanks for watching, everybody, and good night.